Hello, my name is Brandon Frame, and I'm the Director of Social Emotional Learning at the Urban Assembly. And I'm on this journey throughout the country to see high quality social emotional learning in action. So while I'm here in the Big Apple, so it only makes sense that I visit an Urban Assembly school to see SEL in action. It brings me to the Franklin K. Lane Educational Campus to see the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare. And now I have the opportunity to go in and see how over the years they've been prioritizing social emotional learning and the impact that it's having on staff, students, and faculty. So we're gonna go in here and see and meet everyone and see how they are doing this work at a high quality level. So let's check it out, let's go.
Good, how are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you. So I've been on this journey across New York City. I heard about this Strong Resilient New York City initiative where they are prioritizing social emotional development and schools are implementing social emotional learning. And so I heard about the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare.
Yes, yes.
And the amazing work that's happening here. It's been happening over years around prioritizing social emotional learning. Can you tell me a little bit, well first, is that true?
It is.
It is?
It is. Right. Good work is happening here.
So can you tell me just a little bit about what that looks like here at the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare?
We are not only prioritizing social emotional learning, but we're also prioritizing the whole child. So we are making sure that we are holistically meeting all of our students' needs. Academically, obviously returning from COVID, things have been slightly interrupted, but we don't use that as an excuse for not providing high quality instruction, but we're making sure that we know all of our students well. We are meeting their needs, the needs of our community, our parents, and we're making sure that they just have this safe place in order to learn, to thrive, to grow, to get to know their interests, and for our namesake, because of healthcare, to be able to kind of get to know the different pathways and hopefully graduate here as certified EMTs and or medical assistants.
That's outstanding. I'm really kind of excited to know that that work is happening. You're also part of the Urban Assembly Network. Can you tell us a little bit about the Urban Assembly Network?
Yes, so our family, the Urban Assembly Network, is made up of 23 schools in New York City. Many of the schools have a theme in career and technical education, but as a whole, we really pride ourselves in being unscreened small schools that are kind of accepts a student from who they are. So you may receive a student in September, in January, they may come from Colombia, Guatemala, or here in your home in Brooklyn or the Bronx. It doesn't matter, you have a place, you have a home, and we are providing you with individualized instruction in order to make sure that you are ready for your post-secondary life.
You're doing such phenomenal work here in the school, so I'm on this journey to go around the country and be able to talk to principals, students, teachers around how they're doing social emotional learning implementation. And so I would love the opportunity to see the high quality social emotional learning that's happening here at Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare today. Is that?
I mean, we're always ready, so let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Social emotional learning is when an individual is able to express themselves, not only in school community, but also outside of school community.
When you speak to people, the way you interact with those around you and how you are, like awareness for your surroundings and yourself.
SEL to me is a way of teaching your students how to be aware of themselves.
Bonding with others and creating something new for yourself and growing as a person.
I feel that this is important because it's good to realize how you're feeling, realize how those around you are feeling.
For me, social emotional learning, I guess it's like developing different skills and being self-aware, having good time management, being socially aware.
I feel like it's the different ways in which people can interact with each other and build upon their knowledge, you know? It's like you can learn from other people and you can also learn by understanding yourself and how you feel at all times.
Really just important on how you interact with others, because you don't want people to think bad of you and you don't want to think bad of yourself.
I champion social emotional learning because you can't do any other kind of learning until you get that done.
All learning that happens in schools is padded by social emotional learning.
I know what it feels like to be part of a community where no one knows you. I know what it feels like to go to school every day, go to classes, and just exist and not have a connection to anyone.
For me to be a champion of social emotional skills means that they have more opportunities than were afforded to many of us prior to the SEL framework being pushed and advocated for.
So as a champion of social emotional learning, I feel it's important in order for my students to not only feel safe in school, feel heard in school, but also to know that they have individuals that care for them, and we're not only invested in them because of data, we're invested in them because they are humans.
Everything that they do outside of the direct content is social emotional learning, and their ability to be successful is dependent on all of the factors that are sitting with them while they're sitting in the classroom.
So I think of it as kind of like a foundation we have to lay down before we can even do other types of learning.
So at the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare, social emotional learning, it looks like students having relationships from the beginning with teachers.
So our biggest concrete piece of social emotional learning is our advisory program, which is a period 45 minutes, takes place 2 to 3 times a week, where students are working on explicitly developing their core competencies.
In my advisory, we basically go over lesson plans and we put our input, whether it's whatever happens in the world or in a city, figure out solutions if there are problems.
If advisory is available and the lessons are accessible to the teachers and there's not a million moving parts to it, and it's something that is easy and fun to talk about and relatable to not only the teachers but to the students, the conversations and the lessons become something everyone wants to do.
I work very closely with their SEL lead, who is also their guidance counselor and a social worker, and I support weekly or bi-weekly ideas around how advisory should go.
For collaborative healthcare, social emotional learning looks like so many different things because it happens in so many different ways.
But it also takes place in the classroom when, like I said, when students feel like they are able to have conversations and discuss the way that they feel about a certain character or the impact of a certain economic situation, and they can be open and honest and comfortable with their classmates and their teachers.
Social emotional learning looks really, really amazing because for myself, I was able to join as many clubs, to be able to interact one-on-one with other students and just be able to make friends with them.
It looks like teachers infusing that those components in the classroom, and we're not just talking about, oh, in history, like here are the facts. It's like, this is why, here's how it affects the world today.
So if you want to think about what to do, it's just like put the systems in place where kids are sitting and having these types of conversations openly as much as possible. And by the time they get to high school, it should be, like you said, like second nature.
The skills that I have learned in school have been able to help me in school, but also at home.
As a senior now, I hold 2 jobs that I use those social awareness skills at my jobs, and I could see that they're used greatly.
But I think the most common way you see it is in the relationship building that we have between our staff and our students. It's the conversations that are had during advisory. It's the conversations that are had after school, during lunch.
The DESTA has been helpful and impactful in our school community because it provides us with concrete data. Before, we used to talk about students in kind of like school-based verbiage and jargon that made sense to us, but it was just about kind of like how we felt.
Trying to identify what are 9th graders struggling with right now? Where do we need to target our advisory lessons based on what we're seeing? What are the 12th graders really having a hard time with? Where do we see strengths that maybe we could balance off with between the different grades?
So it helped us move our conversations from, oh, well, I think this student does this, and oh, well, I don't like this student. We're able to actually use terminology that is known nationwide, but also be able to take and remove ourselves and our personal feelings from the actual kind of movements of our students and the behaviors they're exhibiting, and we're able to ground it in these terms and these competencies.
So we really kind of take it as a big, zoom out and look at trends across the building to kind of inform what we do for our social emotional learning.
High school students need to learn social emotional skills because they are 4 years away from becoming actual adults.
When you aren't aware of yourself and how you act around others, it can cause a lot of conflict. And so it's very important.
Because high school is like the prime year where you're like starting to become a young adult and you're really starting to grow.
It's a good way for us to prepare for the future as adults, and also like in high school you have to, build relationships.
High school students are like, it's the next generation no matter what. You know, going into whether you go into college, you have to develop social and emotional skills, because college is not just a place in which you can always be secluded.
High school is really the last place that you have a person that is kind of scaffolding you between you and the real world. So this is one of the last times someone will hold your hand, will help you figure out certain situations.
Those 4 years are so pivotal to who you become and just like the way you think about things in life.
That's crazy. We do need social-emotional learning. Like for me, social-emotional learning has helped me a lot.
When you don't learn it in school or in places where you just really get the time to sit down and talk about it, you get a lot of emotionally stunted people who cannot express themselves in ways that are healthy.
I feel like every youth person I speak to has some type of mental health issue. So I feel like SEL is being taught in education for that particular reason as well.
As a studying EMT, I've been on the street and I could see, like, you could really tell when someone just really has never had anybody sit with them and help them understand their emotions.
SEL is important, and you could clearly see it because, like, if we should be focusing on exams, SEL has taught me how to do better on exams.
So I think social-emotional learning is something that we do need to have in school for sure.
I think I would like to thank my advisee, Johnny
Kiani,
Miss Major, and Miss H.
Keelan Jefferson.
Miss Rand.
I have to give a big thanks to Miss Major.
Miss Major, she's my source of support.
She's the biggest leader here.
Not only has she been my advisor for 2 years, but she's really helped me open up and express myself.
I know that his ability to balance, having to have a job, but also to be able to pursue what he loves is something that he discovered here.
I talked to her a lot about my self-awareness and how I feel about other people's feelings towards me, and that helped me grow as a person.
During quarantine, she was also the one who was like checking up on us every day. She will text us and see how we're doing.
There's nothing better than when you shout out a kid and you call home.
Thank you.
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 Principal Hughie, it was outstanding to have an opportunity today to visit the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare and see how you are prioritizing social emotional learning, to meet with teachers, students, support staff. It was outstanding. I mean, kudos to you for the prioritizing of social emotional learning.
Thank you so much. We're always happy to have you here. We're happy to be a part of the Urban Assembly Network, and thank you for the work that you're doing, showcasing young people, showcasing their journeys, and you spreading the news, the joy, the love of social emotional learning across the nation.
Well, I appreciate that. We look forward to raising up the Urban Assembly School for Collaborative Healthcare and the amazing work for the Urban Assembly Network, for New York City, and for the rest of the country to see how high-quality social emotional learning looks in action. So thank you. SEL is not a moment, but a movement, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too.